Chosen one, there's a reason you almost died that day, but didn't. There's a reason you're still standing when others in your family fell apart at your age. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you the 3 signs that prove someone who never knew your name loved you enough to pray you through the hell you've been walking through. I know you're tired. I know you've been asking God, why me? While watching everyone else seem to get their breakthrough. I know there are nights you've sat in your car in the driveway, crying before you go inside because you don't want your family to see you falling apart. But what if every rejection, every betrayal, every door that slammed in your face wasn't punishment? It was protection. Your grandfather, or maybe your grandmother, someone in your bloodline carried a burden so heavy they could barely breathe. And late at night, when no one else was listening, they whispered prayers into the darkness for someone they would never meet. They prayed for you. They asked God to break what broke them, to give you the strength they never had, to open doors for you that stayed locked for them their entire lives. And chosen one, those prayers are being answered right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. Stay with me, because when you see yourself in these 3 signs, everything you've been through will finally make sense. And when it does, comment 999 below. That's your confirmation that this message found you at exactly the right time. Then subscribe, because heaven isn't done speaking to you yet. This is just the beginning. 3 signs you're living someone else's answered prayer. Before I show you those 3 signs, we need to break a lie that American culture has been selling us our entire lives. The lie of being self-made. You know what's interesting? In 2023, Forbes surveyed 100 billionaires and asked them one question. What's the single biggest factor in your success? 91% said the same thing. Right place, right time, right people. Only 9% credited hard work alone. But we don't want to hear that, do we? We want to believe we built our own lives with our own hands. I understand that. I believed it too. I grew up in a working-class family in Ohio. My father worked at a steel mill. My mother was a waitress at a truck stop diner. Nobody in my family had gone to college. When I was 22, I decided I was going to be different. I worked 2 jobs, took night classes at community college, and after 6 years of grinding, I got my bachelor's degree. I was so proud. I thought I had done it all by myself. Nobody gave me anything. But then my mother died, and when I was cleaning out her house, I found a cardboard box in the back of her closet. Inside were hundreds of receipts. $50 sent to my college fund from someone I'd never heard of. $100 from a woman named Dorothy Johnson, my grandmother's friend who died before I was born. $25 from a pastor whose church my family only attended twice. And there was a handwritten note from my mother. These people gave because I asked them to pray for you. They prayed. Then they gave, because that's what prayer does. I sat on that floor and cried, because I wasn't self-made. I was prayer-made. And chosen one, I'm willing to bet you are too. Sign number 1. The accidents that weren't the first sign that you're living inside someone else's answered prayer is this. You have survived things that should have killed you. Let me tell you about Linda Martinez. She's 58, lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan, works as an accountant. Numbers and logic, that's Linda's world. But on March 15, 2015, something happened she still can't explain. Linda woke up that morning with a feeling of dread, not anxiety, something different, like someone whispering, "Don't take the highway today." She tried to ignore it, but as she sat in her car, keys in the ignition, that voice got louder. "Take the back roads." This made no sense. The highway was her route, but the feeling wouldn't leave. So she listened. She took the long way, adding 30 minutes to her commute. At 7:52 a.m., her phone buzzed with news alerts. Multi-vehicle pileup on I-96. 5 dead, 12 injured. The accident happened at 7:43 a.m., exactly when Linda would have been driving through that stretch if she'd taken her normal route. But here's where it gets powerful. A year later, Linda's mother passed away. Going through her mother's belongings, Linda found a leather journal that belonged to her grandmother, a woman she'd never met because she died 3 years before Linda was born. Inside were pages of handwritten prayers. And on June 3rd, 1985, her grandmother wrote, "Lord, I may never see my granddaughters, but I'm asking you to put your angels on every road they travel. Whisper to them when danger is near. Let them hear your voice, even if they don't know it's you." That weird feeling Linda had, that wasn't anxiety. That was a prayer answered 30 years after it was spoken. So let me ask you, how many times should you have died, but didn't? How many near misses that don't make logical sense? Write them down. Because you're not here by luck. You're here because someone prayed protection over you before you existed. And those prayers are still working. Sign number 2, the doors that slammed shut. The second sign is one most people miss completely because it doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like rejection. I'm talking about the opportunities you didn't get, the job they gave to someone else, the relationship that ended, the dream that died. You thought God had abandoned you, but what if that closed door was actually an answered prayer? Just not your prayer, someone else's prayer for you. Let me tell you about Marcus from Atlanta. In 2008, he was an investment banker at Lehman Brothers. 6-figure salary, corner office. He'd worked his whole life to get there. That September, he was offered a promotion. VP position. $300,000 a year. New York office. He signed the contract, booked his flights, rented an apartment in Manhattan. 2 weeks before his start date, Lehman Brothers collapsed. 15,000 people lost their jobs, including Marcus. No severance, no health insurance, nothing. He went back to Atlanta, broken and humiliated. He applied to over 200 jobs in 8 months, 200 rejections. Finally, a community college hired him as an adjunct professor teaching basic finance, $32,000 a year. Marcus told me he felt like a complete failure. But then one of his students, Tyrell, 19 years old, first-generation college student, stayed after class one day. "Professor Marcus," he said, "my mom told me about you. She said you used to work at one of those big banks, and now you're here, teaching us. She said that's proof God answers prayers. She's been praying for 10 years for someone who looks like me to come teach here. Someone who made it. Someone who came back." Marcus started crying, right there in the classroom. By 2019, 12 of Marcus's former students were working in finance, helping their communities. Tyrell told him, "You didn't fail, Prof. You were redirected. And because of that, hundreds of us got a chance." That rejection you're still carrying, that wasn't failure. That was protection. Someone prayed that you'd end up exactly where you needed to be, even if it didn't look like what you wanted. Sign number 3, the strangers who showed up. The third sign, strangers who appeared at exactly the right moment and said or did something that changed everything. Maybe it was the nurse who held your hand during your darkest hour. The stranger at the hardware store who somehow knew you needed a job. The woman who noticed you crying and said exactly what you needed to hear. Let me tell you about Sarah from Columbus, Ohio. In 2016, She sat in her car in a Walmart parking lot with a bottle of pills in her hand. Her husband had left. Her kids were grown and gone. She'd just been laid off. She had $340 in her bank account and rent due in 5 days. She opened the bottle, poured pills into her hand. Then someone knocked on her window. An elderly woman, probably in her 70s. White hair, floral dress. Sarah rolled down the window, annoyed. "Yes?" The woman smiled. "Honey, I don't mean to bother you, but I was walking to my car, and I felt like I needed to tell you something. Someone is praying for you right now, and they want you to know. Your story isn't over. It's just starting a new chapter." Then she walked away. Sarah looked around the parking lot. The woman was gone, disappeared. Sarah drove home, didn't take the pills. 2 weeks later, a former coworker called with a job opportunity. 8 years later, Sarah is now a manager at that company. She never found that woman, but she doesn't think it was random. She thinks someone prayed for her, and God sent help at the exact moment she needed it most. So those are the 3 signs. 1. The accidents that weren't. 2. The doors that slammed shut. 3. The strangers who showed up. If any of these resonated with you, I need you to understand something. You're not lucky. You're not special in an arrogant way. You are a recipient. Someone loved you enough to pray for you before they ever knew your name. But here's what most people miss. Being prayed for is only half the equation. The other half is what you do with that answered prayer. Because if you don't steward it correctly, you can waste the entire blessing. In part 2, I'm going to show you how to recognize when those prayers are being activated in this season of your life, the 4 mistakes people make that block the blessing, and what you need to do in the next 30 days to align yourself with what's coming. But before we get there, I want you to do something. Comment below, "I'm a recipient." Just those 3 words. Because when you declare it publicly, something shifts spiritually. You're acknowledging that your life is not just about you. Comment now, then click part 2. I'll see you there. How to stop blocking what's already yours. In 2022, the state of California held $10.2 billion in unclaimed property. $10.2 billion. Money, stocks, inheritance, just sitting there, waiting for people to claim it. And you know what the weirdest part is? Most of those people don't even know it's theirs. It's legally theirs. It's been sitting there for years. But because they don't know to look for it, they never receive it. I believe that spiritually, millions of people are doing the exact same thing right now. There are blessings, breakthroughs, provisions waiting for them, already prayed into existence years ago. Legally theirs, spiritually theirs, but they're not receiving it. Not because God is withholding it, but because they're doing 4 things that block the release. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what those 4 things are. If you can identify which one you're doing and stop it in the next 30 days, everything changes. Let's go. Mistake. Number 1. Waiting for permission. The first mistake that blocks answered prayers is waiting for permission. And this one sounds so humble, so spiritual, that most people don't even realize they're doing it. You tell yourself you're being patient. You're waiting on God's timing. But here's what's really happening. You're afraid. Let me tell you about Jennifer from Dallas. She's 62 now. In 2018, after her husband died, Jennifer had $180,000 from life insurance. She'd always dreamed of opening a small bakery. Her pies were legendary. Everyone told her, "This is your sign. Do it." But Jennifer said, "I need to pray about it first." So she prayed. For 5 years, every week, God, should I open the bakery? Give me a clear sign. And God had already given her signs. The money appeared. People kept asking her to bake for events. A perfect storefront became available in her neighborhood 3 different times over those 5 years. But each time, Jennifer said, "I'm still waiting for confirmation." Then in 2023, a corporate bakery chain opened in that exact location. Jennifer called me heartbroken. I missed it. I missed my window. Here's the brutal truth. God will not beg you to receive your blessing. He opens doors, but you have to walk through them. Jennifer was waiting for God to remove all the risk, guarantee the outcome. But that's not how faith works. Remember the parable of the talents? One servant buried his money because he was afraid, and the master called him wicked and lazy, because fear masquerading as caution is still fear. So write this down. What have I been waiting for permission to do? Not small things, big things. Starting that business, ending that toxic relationship, going back to school at 55, having that hard conversation, write it down, then ask, what am I actually afraid of? Name the real fear underneath the spiritual language. Then pray, God, I'm done waiting for permission. If you've opened the door, give me courage to walk through it. If I'm wrong, close it hard. But I won't let fear steal what you've provided. Then take one action step in the next 48 hours. One phone call, one email, 1 hour of research. Because blessings don't fall into your lap. They meet obedience halfway. Mistake. For 2. Toxic gratitude. The second mistake sounds crazy, but it's one of the biggest blockers. Toxic gratitude. This is when you're so grateful for your current situation that you refuse to want more. David from Tampa was a warehouse manager making $48,000 a year. Job was boring, dead end, but stable. A former colleague offered him an operations director position. $85,000. Better hours. Room for growth. David's response? I'm grateful for what I have. I don't want to be greedy. His wife, Maria, was furious. We're struggling to pay for the kids' college. Why are you saying no? David said, I don't want to be ungrateful to God. When Maria came to me for counseling, I asked what happened in David's childhood. She thought for a moment. His dad was always angry they were poor, always complaining. David swore he'd never be like that. David had confused contentment with complacency. He thought wanting better was the same as being ungrateful. But that's not biblical. Abraham was blessed. Then God blessed him more. Joseph had favor in prison. Then God promoted him to the palace. Here's the difference between healthy and toxic gratitude. Healthy gratitude says, thank you for this job, and I trust you if you're calling me to something greater. Toxic gratitude says, I should just be happy with what I have. Wanting more is selfish. Toxic gratitude is actually fear disguised as humility. Fear of success. Fear of visibility. Fear of loss. So finish this sentence. If I wasn't afraid, I would want. Write it down, then ask God, is this desire from you or from ego? If it brings peace when you imagine it, that's God. If it brings anxiety or obsession, that's ego. Stop shrinking so God looks bigger. God is already big. He wants you to grow. Mistake number 3, the scarcity spiral. Mistake number 3 is the scarcity spiral. This is when you believe there's not enough to go around. If someone else wins, I lose. Patricia and Monica are sisters, 54 and 51. Growing up, they were close. But in their 30s, something shifted. Monica got married first, had kids. Her husband got promoted. Patricia struggled with infertility and got laid off. Slowly, Patricia started resenting Monica. Not openly, but subtly. Skipping family gatherings, short responses to texts. I'm happy for you. But in 2019, Patricia finally went to therapy. The therapist asked, "When did you start believing there's only one blessing available?" Patricia broke down. "Every time Monica got something, I felt like I lost something." The therapist said, "What if God has separate blessings for each of you? What if Monica's blessing has nothing to do with yours?" Patricia realized she'd spent 15 years blocking her own blessings because she was too busy resenting Monica's. They reconciled. In 2021, Patricia met someone. Married in 2022. She told me, "I thought God forgot about me. Turns out I was too bitter to see what he was trying to give me." Here's the truth. God's blessings are not pie. When someone else gets a piece, yours doesn't get smaller. God is infinite. His resources are limitless. Romans 8:32 says, "He will graciously give us all things." Not some things if there's enough left over. All things. Your co-worker's promotion doesn't steal yours. Your friend's healing doesn't delay yours. Stop comparing. It's poisoning you. Here's your assignment. Think of one person who recently got blessed. Text them right now. "I'm genuinely happy for you. I celebrate you." You don't have to feel it 100%. Obedience precedes feeling. When you celebrate someone else's blessing, you declare, "I believe there's enough." And that declaration unlocks your door. Mistake number 4, ignoring the preparation. The last mistake, ignoring the preparation. You pray for breakthrough. You believe it's coming. Meanwhile, your life is a mess. Finances disorganized, relationships unresolved, health neglected. And you think, when the blessing comes, I'll get it together. But that's backwards. Blessing doesn't arrive to fix your mess. Blessing arrives to reward your preparation. Remember Joseph in Genesis 41? He got a vision. 7 years of abundance, 7 years of famine. Most people would have partied. Not Joseph. Immediately, he organized storage systems, built infrastructure, trained workers. Why? Because he knew blessing without preparation is just chaos. Angela from San Jose is 59. In 2020, she got $15,000 from stimulus and unemployment. She'd been praying for years for seed money to start a jewelry business. Finally, she had it. But instead of investing, she spent it. New couch. Vacation. Gifts. By 2021, the money was gone. No business. She called me devastated. Why did God give me money just to watch me waste it? I said, "Angela, God didn't waste it. You did. He gave you seed. You treated it like surplus. If you can't manage 15,000, God won't trust you with 150,000. Not because he's mean, because he loves you. Unmanaged blessing destroys people. So audit yourself. Finances. Do you know where your money goes? Relationships. Is there someone you need to forgive? Health. When was your last checkup? Spiritual. Are you listening, not just asking? Pick one category. Get it 80% functional in the next 30 days. When you prepare, you tell God, "I'm ready." And he responds to that. We've covered 4 mistakes that block blessings. 1. Waiting for permission. 2. Toxic gratitude. 3. Scarcity spiral. 4. Ignoring preparation. If you're honest, you probably saw yourself in at least one, maybe all 4. That's okay. Awareness is the first step, but awareness without action is just information. And information doesn't change lives. Obedience does. Someone prayed for you. Maybe a grandparent you never met. Maybe a parent who's now gone. They prayed, "Let them have what I didn't. Let them be free where I was bound." And God heard. But here's the final truth. You honor those prayers not by being perfect. You honor them by being willing. Willing to try. Willing to heal. Willing to receive. I don't know what you're walking through right now. Maybe you're in the best season of your life, wondering what's next. Maybe you're in the worst season, wondering if this will ever end. Either way, hear me. The prayer that was prayed over you years ago is reaching maturity right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. The question isn't, will it come? The question is, will you be ready when it does? Comment below. I'm ready. 2 words. Then do the work. Pick one mistake. Fix it in the next 30 days. I'll be here, cheering you on. You got this. The prayer spoken over you didn't stop at these 2 parts. There's more. Subscribe now, so you don't miss what heaven releases next. Timing is everything, and you've come too far to disconnect now. Your next step is waiting in the next video. Stay,